There's something eerily powerful about saying the same words over and over again, not out of habit, not out of desperation, but with deliberate focus. When you repeat a phrase 100 times, you're not just speaking, you're coding reality. Most people think it's nonsense, just words thrown into the wind. But in truth, each repetition carries a vibration, and vibration is how the universe listens. Florence Scovel wrote that the game of life is a game of boomerangs. What you send out returns. Words, when charged with intention, become seeds. And repetition? Repetition waters them. One phrase, repeated with calm conviction, starts to penetrate the surface of the subconscious. And the subconscious, that's the gatekeeper of what manifests in your world. This isn't about magic spells. It's not about superstition. It's about energy. Every word you speak holds a frequency. Speak it once and it flickers. Speak it 100 times and it begins to burn steady. That steady burn, that consistent pulse, becomes a signal the universe cannot ignore. You become a transmitter of that frequency, and something strange begins to happen. You begin to feel different, not dramatically, quietly. Slight shifts in thought, posture, mood, as if something within is realigning. That's the beginning of the code working. The words you repeat begin to settle into your being, not just as sound, but as command, as structure. The invisible code behind repetition isn't mystical, it's mechanical. And yet, it feels magical, because slowly, life begins to move, slightly at first, but then in patterns that feel too aligned to be random. And it all started when you chose a phrase and spoke it 100 times like you meant it. Everything in the universe moves. Nothing is truly still. From the largest galaxy to the smallest particle, everything vibrates. And that includes your thoughts. This is the essence of the law of vibration, the unspoken force behind every manifestation. Before you attract anything, you vibrate it. That's the key most people miss. A single thought carries a frequency. Think it once, and the vibration ripples. But hold that thought, give it emotion, add repetition, and suddenly, you're tuning your entire inner world to a new frequency. This is when the law of attraction becomes active. Not when you desire something, but when your vibration matches it. And your vibration is crafted through repetition. Words are not just tools for communication. They are instruments of resonance. Speak a word with feeling, and it echoes. Speak it with belief, and it amplifies. Florence Scovel taught that your word is your wand, not metaphorically, but energetically. When you declare something repeatedly, with intention, you're shifting the tone of your entire energetic field. What's often overlooked is that your body listens, your mind listens, and the field around you listens. The moment you start repeating a phrase 100 times, you're retuning your own signal. You're interrupting the old noise, fear, doubt, limitation, and replacing it with a new broadcast. One of clarity, one of alignment, one of power. This is how the unseen begins to bend, not through force, but through frequency. The law of vibration isn't about wanting, it's about becoming. And you become something different the moment you start vibrating differently. That's why repetition isn't empty. It's the ignition key for every silent shift that eventually becomes visible change. Some might ask, why 100? Why not 10 or 1,000? The answer isn't mathematical, it's energetic. The number 100 represents a threshold, a level of saturation where thought no longer floats on the surface of your awareness, but sinks deep into the roots of your identity. It's not about superstition. It's about momentum. At first, your mind resists. The first repetitions feel mechanical, forced. Your subconscious still holds the old script, the doubts, the fears, the contradictions. But somewhere around the 40th, 60th, 80th time, the energy shifts. You're no longer just repeating, you're embodying. Repetition creates rhythm, and rhythm creates resonance. That's when transformation begins. Florence Scovel spoke often about impressing the subconscious mind. She didn't say, convince it. She said, impress. Like pressing a seal into wax, the repeated word becomes a mark, a vibration etched into your energetic blueprint. And once it's there, your outer world must conform. The inner command becomes an external law. 100 isn't magic, it's persistence. It's the breaking point where belief begins to bend reality. It's long enough for your energy to align and short enough to remain focused. It's a full cycle of intention, from thought, through voice, into vibration. And when you cross that line, your frequency no longer matches the old version of you. It's been recalibrated. So no, 100 isn't just a number. It's a ritual, a bridge, a tuning fork. It is the point where the phrase you speak begins to speak through you, not as repetition, but as a new identity. The shift may be subtle at first, but reality always responds to frequency, and repetition is how you dial it in. At some point, often unnoticed, the repetition unlocks something. A shift. Not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable. It's the moment when your words stop feeling like words and start feeling like truth. The phrase you've repeated 100 times begins to echo even in your silence. It lives in you, and more importantly, it starts shaping what happens around you. This is not coincidence, it's alignment. Your internal broadcast is no longer cluttered with mixed signals. The repetition cleared the static, and with that clarity, life begins to organize itself differently. You find yourself saying no to things that no longer match your vibration. Opportunities appear without effort. People arrive. Doors open, not because you're chasing, but because you've become magnetic. Florence Scovel called this spiritual law. What you align with internally, you meet externally. You may think it's random, but pay attention. Patterns emerge. The timing of things tightens. A thought you repeated now shows up in the form of a conversation, a message, a sudden idea. These are not chances. They are responses. Echoes from the field you've been feeding with your words. The gate doesn't swing open all at once. It creaks. It gives. It breathes. But it does open. And what flows through it isn't just what you asked for. It's what you've become a match for. The repetition was never about convincing the world. It was about tuning yourself. You weren't speaking to the universe. You were reprogramming the receiver. This is where many stop. They see the first flicker of change and retreat. But those who continue, those who trust the process and repeat with devotion, become the authors of a new timeline. Not by force, not by strategy, but because they dared to speak a new reality into being, one phrase at a time. There comes a moment when life stops feeling random. When you look around and realize things are happening for you, not to you. What you once called luck, you now recognize as alignment. This is where destiny stops being a distant idea and starts becoming a living rhythm that moves with you. And it all began the day you chose to speak one phrase and didn't stop. Destiny doesn't knock, it listens. And when it hears clarity, when it senses conviction in your vibration, it responds in kind. People call it coincidence, but those who've walked the path of repetition know better. It's not chance, it's conspiracy, not in the fearful sense, but in the sacred one, a co-spiriting of energy, will, and divine timing. Florence Scovel taught that the universe has ears, but no logic. It listens not to your intentions, but to your vibrations. You can hope for one thing and vibrate another, and it will respond to the vibration every time. That's why repetition matters. You're not explaining to the universe what you want. You're becoming the version of you who already has it. And from that place, the world starts shaping itself accordingly. You meet people who mirror your energy. You walk into rooms where you're already welcome. The phone rings at the right time. Not because you manipulated the outcome, but because you aligned with it. The phrase you repeated became your frequency, and frequency is the true language of reality. This is the conspiracy no one talks about, that your life is secretly listening to you, not to your thoughts, but to the vibration your thoughts carry. And when you choose to speak power, to speak vision, to speak peace, repeatedly, you invite a reality that has no choice but to meet you in that same tone. There's a silent moment that arrives after repetition has done its work. You stop needing the phrase because you've become it. It's no longer something you say to convince yourself. It's something you live. The repetition was never about manifesting a thing. It was about becoming the kind of person who no longer lives without it. What you repeat with emotion, you merge with. The words soak into your choices, your posture, your tone. They shape how you walk into a room, how you answer a question, how you see yourself in the mirror. The world may not notice right away, but it will adjust. It always adjusts to who you've become, not who you pretend to be, but who you vibrate as. Florence Scovel said, "You must act as if you already received." Repetition is how you get there. It's how you shift from hoping to knowing, from wishing to becoming. The phrase you speak 100 times is not a performance. It's a portal. And once you cross it, you never walk the same again. There's power in saying something until it becomes your nature. There's power in letting repetition rewrite the script you've been living. You're not casting a spell. You're removing the old one. And as you do, the world responds. You no longer need to chase. You magnetize. You no longer beg for direction. You become the direction itself.